A Nigerian woman identified as @Dunchichi on Twitter has reportedly been sentenced to a one-year jail term by the United Arab Emirates government for a social media post. The post shows how some Nigerian nationals were allegedly illegally detained at Dubai International Airport. @Dunchichi posted on Twitter how she was also detained together with other Nigerians despite possessing a valid visa in August. Another user, Jerry Doubles, who claimed to be her relatives, has announced that @Dunchichi has been sent to jail for an offence relating to her earlier post in Dubai. He says it is sad and regrettably heart-wrenching that she was sentenced on the 12th of October to 1 year in jail in Dubai. He further adds that her family are planning to protest her conviction at the Dubai Consulate Office in Abuja. The United Arab Emirates government reportedly also announced a visa ban on Nigerians. The ban was announced in a notice issued by UAE immigration authorities to its trade partners in Nigeria, including travel agencies. Well, let's speak a little bit more about this. So we're joined via Zoom by Tembisa Fakude, who is Senior Research Fellow and Director at the Africa-Asia Dialogues. A very good evening to you, Tembisa, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So just your thoughts, the decision by the UAE immigration authorities with regard to the visa ban, and we mentioned the social media post by this lady who is identified as @Dunchichi. Does the one have to do with the other? Could social media posts or transgressions be laid at the foot of this decision?
I think there are two issues here. One is the diplomatic issue, which is country-to-country relations, that is UAE and Nigeria's relations, that has to be dealt with on a separate part. Then there's a part of the online and social media participation and restrictions in the UAE, which basically prevents or bars anyone to a free participation in social media, as it's the case, for example, in South Africa. So in the UAE, you'll have a number of restrictions and a number of penalties imposed for those who violate those restrictions. So you might have had the situation here. I think the case in point is that there was some sort of a lobby or a solidarity activism towards the person that was denied the visa by the UAE, or his visa was questioned. And that has raised a problem. And as a result, the UAE government has invoked some of those restrictions and laws pertaining to social media. And that's why you find the current situation or the standoff between the Nigerians and the UAE.
So let's pick at some of those rules. I believe the UAE says an individual needs to adhere to the rules and guidelines as advised by the local authorities and the provisions of the UAE cybercrime law relating to posting any content on social media platforms. It generally leaves the responsibility to you. So I mean, if you're not really aware of the rules, and surely when you apply for a visa, you try and do your research, you might know, but some things may just actually escape you as being normal, as in line with your own democratic rights.
The best thing to do with the UAE is just stay away from posting people's faces, commenting on the politics of the UAE, posting or commenting on the government officials, because these are wide-ranging restrictions, basically saying that your social media participation must only be limited to your family. And it becomes very difficult, of course, because even if you post someone's picture without their knowledge or agreement, you might find yourself in the wrong side of the law, having to pay very hefty fines. So, and the fines are actually quite hefty, by the way. So it's a way of preventing people, one, from defaming the government or protesting. It's been the case in other part of the world, lobbying and creating all of these platforms that go against governments in various parts of the Middle East. So it's a form of preventing people from speaking against government. And these hefty fines that have been imposed by the UAE government also makes it very, very difficult for people to have this free participation and the freedom of expression as we find ourselves enjoying in this country. So the UAE is quite different. It's not only the UAE, by the way, it's also country like such as Saudi Arabia, I know that Saudi Arabia has had sentences ranging from 35 years to life for posting offensive material, at least as far as the government is concerned, in Saudi Arabia. So UAE is doing exactly the same, basically preventing people from freely participating in the social media platforms.
So, as you mentioned, refrain from insulting the government or its rulers, but it also talks about refraining from posting any content which is harmful to women or children, such as human trafficking, pornography, prostitution, and acts against public morality. So this is, I believe, according to Article 32 to Article 34 of the cybercrime law. When you get there, are you given a list of these laws and the imprisonment terms for which you may be penalized? As in, is there an effort to make sure that you actually understand?
Not at all. There's no notice, for example, when you arrive at the Dubai airport or any other airport in the UAE, on how you should behave on a social media platform. So most people will continue to act as usual, based on how they've been acting from the countries where they originate. So when you get to Dubai, it's different. It's a different ballgame, and unfortunately, there are no notices in advance to advise those who visit the UAE on how to behave on social media. And it's unfortunate. But the other thing, of course, is that UAE is another country. So much of its legislation is written in Arabic, which makes it very difficult for other people who come from Anglophone or Francophone nations to understand what's expected of them. But I think it's going to be quite a challenge for the UAE, particularly because it prides itself as a friendly destination to tourists. Tourists want to take pictures and post. So you will be extremely careful on what to do with those pictures that you take in the UAE. Henceforth, given that they are very, very strict when it comes to what you post, especially if you're still in their territory. So it's going to be quite difficult for them to continue convincing the world that Dubai, for example, which is part of the UAE, is open for tourists, and at the same time, if you find yourself having posted something that's offensive, or if you have someone who decide that they're going to go and report your actions on social media, you might just find yourself in the very wrong side of the law and eventually in jail if you cannot afford to pay those hefty fines that they report.
So I'm just curious about this. I saw another one just with regards to the federal decree law combating rumors and cyber crimes. Is there surveillance on individuals who enter the country? I mean, depending on your settings, of course, there's certain people who may have access to what you're posting, but are they apprised of this through some other means?
No, not at all. Even the word rumor, what is a rumor? And that's open for interpretation, and the word rumor has been weaponized in the Middle East, of course. Because if you post anything, it's always a rumor, even though we know that there's a lot of violations that are taking place in that part of the world, particularly in countries such as UAE. So you will be fined for posting what is known as a rumor, even though it's a fact, or it's a widespread belief. It remains a rumor in the sight of government. So it's quite difficult, particularly that there are no prior notices to people on how to go about behaving when in that part of the world. And if they do have, of course, a premeditated agenda against you, you might just find yourself either in jail or having to pay those hefty fines that have been imposed on all the people who violate those regulations on social media.
So how difficult is it to live in the UAE if one is used to such freedoms of expression? I mean, the various documentary series and reality series or programs that we're seeing on television at the moment about life in the UAE, and obviously for those who are there, they're very complimentary and flattering of it there, the opportunities there. But I'd imagine if you live there and you are making hay of the situation, you're hardly going to publicize anything that'll get you booted out.
Yeah, you just have to be very careful. And of course, a lot of people continue to violate these regulations, notwithstanding. But if the government has targeted you, chances are, if you continue posting certain things that might be seen as offensive or illegal against the government or by the government, you might just find yourself in a much more difficult situation. But it is business as usual in terms of social media participation to many people who live in either Abu Dhabi, Al Ain, or in Dubai. But again, if you have the government targeting you for whatever reason, or the government has got an axe to grind with your government, you might just find yourself in a situation, and I suspect this time around that's the case when it comes to those Nigerian nationals who find themselves on the red side of the law.
Thank you so much for your time, Musa Fakude. He is Director and Senior Research Fellow at the Africa-Asia Dialogues. Now,